sixth graders, we're going to start chapter 2. Chapter 2 is about decimal numbers. We're going to be learning a lot about decimal numbers and place value behind the decimal point. Okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about are the numbers behind the decimal point and the place values. Hundreds, tens, ones. We covered those in the whole numbers and what to do with whole numbers in the last chapter. How to add them, subtract them, multiply them, divide them. All that review from second grade on. Now we're going to talk about the decimal point and numbers that are not whole numbers. They're less than whole numbers. 1/10 is 1 out of 10, right? Can you think of what is 1/10 of something?
1/10 of a pizza?
Okay. How about in terms of numbers?
Wait, in terms of numbers?
Yeah. 1/10. Can you give any example in money or in terms like that?
Use 1/10 of 10 is 1.
Okay, of what?
10.
Of what? So for example, a penny, 1 cent is 1/10 of a what?
Dime.
A dime. And a dime is 1/10 of a dollar. And a dollar is 1/10 of
$10.
$10. Right? Because there are 10 ones in $10. So 1/10, that's what 1/10 means. 1 out of 10. 1 penny out of 10 cents. 1 dime out of a dollar. What about 1/100th of something? One-hundredth of something. In using those same terms, what is 1/100th of something? Roy?
All of it?
No, 1 out of 100. Think of a real world example that is 1 out of 100. Brett?
So, like 1 penny out of a dollar.
Right, 1 penny out of a dollar is 1/100th of a dollar. Okay? What else? Stay with money. 100th. What's $1 100th of? No, $1 would be 1/10 of $10. It'd be 1 out of 10. What's 100th? $1 is,
$1 out of $100.
yeah, 1 out of $100 is 1/100th. Okay? Or 1 cent out of $1. Right? So those are examples of hundreds. That's how much it is. That's how much we're talking about. So in the place value, when you're reading numbers that are behind the decimal point, you read the numbers every 3, just like you would if they're on the left side of the decimal point. You read this number and then say the place of the last decimal place, or of the last digit. So for example, you would read this as 45, and why do we use the word and? What does the word and mean? That's the decimal point, right? The word and refers to the decimal point. So we know that all the numbers then that we're reading after the word and refer to the numbers that are less than 1, that are behind the decimal point. 45 and then this number. What is this number? 328, right? 328. What's the place of the last digit? Lindsay? 10 thousandths. This goes tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths. So read this with me. 45 and 328 10 thousandths. Let's look at another example. How do we read this number? Well, there's no comma there. We're used to reading this number with a comma. But if we separate this out and we put a space there, that's kind of like having a comma. And most of the time when you see a lot of numbers on the right side of the decimal point, you will see a space every 3 numbers. But it does help you separate them out. Okay? Since it starts with tenths, then 6 places is millions. It goes with like this: tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, millions. Read those with me. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, millions. So this number is 100,264 millions. Okay? 100,264 millions. Again, you just read this number just like you would if it was on the left side of the decimal point, if these were whole numbers. But this is actually less than 1. Okay? This is almost 1/10, but it's a little bit over 1/10. You see that? We talked about what 1/10 is. It's like 1 penny out of a dime. This is a little bit over that. It's 264 millionths over it. Okay? Look at this one. Here I separated these so you can see how the places work beyond that. So, this number is just 3. You just say 3, because that's the only non-zero digit. 3. And this place is... Nope. 100 millionths. 300 millionths. Maybe I should have a hyphen there. So this is millions, 10 millionths, 100 millionths. What would come after 100 millionths? No, keep going higher. Thousandths goes that way. Cal?
Billion?
Billions. Yep. This would be the billionths place beyond the 100 millionths place. All right? Now, when you're comparing numbers with decimal points, you compare them starting on the left and going past the left, all right? But sometimes you don't have as many numbers. And so in order to compare the digits, you have to put a 0 on the end. When you are adding zeros to the right side of the number, and it's past the decimal point, it doesn't change the value. We can use that 0 to compare these two numbers. So originally this said 0.306. How would you read that number? Liz?
0 and 306 thousand.
Correct. And how would you read this one, Jeremiah? Just read this number. What is this number? what are the digits?
It's 3 and 1.
Yep, so it's 31. Just say 31. Well, what place is that? Yeah, the hundredths place. So this is 31 hundredths. Now, look at these digits. 306 and 31. Which one is bigger? Daria?
The one on the left.
No.
306 and 31. You'd think that 306 is bigger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because 306 seems like more than 31. But not when we compare all the places. Because this is 306 thousandths. This is 31 hundredths. So we have to compare them with the same number of places. Now let's look at these two numbers. In this box. The 3's are the same. The 1's, this one has 1 hundredth. This one has how many hundredths?
0.
0. It has 0 hundredths and the other one has 1 hundredth. That means this one's bigger. Or, if we look at the whole number, what number is this? Nate?
306.
No, the one I just underlined.
31.
No, the whole thing.
310.
310. Attention here. And what's this one, Roy?
306.
Yeah, can you tell which one's bigger now?
Yeah.
310 is bigger than 306. But we had to put a 0 on the end in order to be able to compare all the places. And that's what you have to do when you're comparing numbers with the decimal point. So how would you say this? How would you read this statement? Alex?
0 and 306 thousandths is less than 0 and 310 thousandths.
Okay. Or you could also say 31 hundredths and leave off the 0. But if it was written this way, that's totally correct. All right? Great job. How about this one? How would you read this? Cool?
4 to the
4 and
1/10 is greater than 4 and 99 thousandths.
yes. Nice job. Let's talk about expanded form. Okay? In expanded form, these numbers are 5/10 and 5 thousandths, right? 505 thousandths. When we wrote these in exponent form before, I don't think, no, you won't have to know exponent form for this yet. But this is what the exponent form would be for those of you that are curious. 5, the tenths is 10 to the negative 1, and thousandths is 10 to the negative 3 because it's 3 places behind the decimal point. But in word form, this is 505 thousandths, right? Then, let's look at a number line and see how a number line works. Let's get rid of some of these. Let's start with these. So we've got some numbers here, 300, 3.4 and 3.5 and 3.6. What is between 3.4 and 3.5? You'd think that, oh wait, there's Are there numbers between 3.4 and 3.5? They're right next to each other. 4 and 5 are next to each other. How can there be numbers between them? What do we do, Max?
Oh, well, the one thing you could do would be 3.45.
Okay. What does that mean?
It's 30.
Oh, 3.45, yeah, sorry. How can there be 45 in between 0.4 and 0.5? How can there be a 45 in between 4 and 5? Daria?
Because the one that's the number that's like the furthest out or to the right, that's the smaller number. Like, no, I mean in the, yeah, that.
Yeah, right. Let's look at it this way. Let's look at this as 3.40 and 3.50. Can we do that without changing the value of the number? Can we put a 0 on the end?
Yeah.
Nod your head.
Yeah.
Yep. So 45 is in between 40 and 50, right? Right? Yeah, yeah. Can we keep doing that? What's between 3.45 and 3.46? So let's say that that one is right there. 3.46. Are there numbers between those two? So what should we do to figure out what numbers come between them? What do we do here? You don't remember? Ethan?
We can just add numbers at the end.
And what numbers?
Like,
Any numbers? Well, we're trying to find a number that goes right between them.
five. Like, you could just add beginning and 5.
Okay, let's look at it this way. Let's add a 0 on the end first. So Zoe, write this down. What did we add to the end of each number? Zoe? Right, so now let's look at 450 and 460. And what comes between 450 and 460? Ariana? Yeah, so write 3 and 455. See, between 450 and 460 is 455. And we could keep adding 5s on the end if we needed to go between those. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how many numbers are there between numbers? Infinity. An infinite number of numbers between every number. Okay? Because we can always add numbers onto the end. Isn't that cool? Did I just blow your mind? This is amazing. It doesn't matter what number we start with. What's between those two numbers? Find a number between those two numbers. Emily? What? Find a number between those two numbers.
0.0010.
That's the same as this number. But if we put zeros on the end, it might be even easier to find numbers between them now. What would you write? One, what? 1, 2. 0, 0.00012. 0.0001 3. 0.0001. What's next? Zoe? What comes next? 4. And 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. We can keep right on going, right? Okay, let's take a look at your worksheet. We're going to start by writing numbers in word form, and these all the way across. How would you read the first one? Bryce. Last class?
Yes, yes.
Listen to Bryce. He's going to tell us what the word form of the first one is.
5 and 90.
Correct. 5 and 92 hundredths. 5 and 92. Should there be a hyphen in between 90 and 2?
Yes.
Because it's a 2-digit number. What place? Abby? What's the place at the end of the number? The hundredths place. Yep. Number 2. Jen?
Are we on number 1 or 2? 2.
Number 2. Read the digits. Just read the digits. Look.
0.
No, you don't have to say 0. So you can just read the non-zero digits. Read that number.
704.
Good. 704. Now, figure out the place. All right? Don't freak out about just reading the number. You'll just read the number just like any other number. Okay? You can even pretend there's commas in there. So it's 704. Just write 704. Now, what's the place? Tenths, hundredths, thousands. Number 3. What do I call them? Noah.
Number 3 is 24 and 85 thousandths.
Good. 24 and 85 thousandths. Number 4, Carson. Yep, just read it first. Read this digit.
563.
And then say the place of this digit. 9 and 563 thousandths. Number 5. Here's what I want you to do in numbers 5 through 8. I want you to make sure that there's the same number of places behind the decimal point in each number. So, this one has only one place. What should we add behind it? A zero, yep. So for each one of those, before you write the symbol, make sure they have the same number of places in the number. Okay? Let's skip down to number 15. Number 15. $4.72. What do we have to figure out on that number line? There's some numbers that are marked. You have to figure out how much each space is worth. Right? So first, start with writing, since the number line has 4.6, what should we put on the end of the 6? Put a 0. 4.60. And then later on there's 4.7. Right? 4.70. And then down here is 4.8. And change that to 4.80. Now we can figure out where things go. 4.72 is more than 4.7. What would go in between, directly in between 4.70 and 4.80? Emily? What goes directly between these? What's the middle tick mark worth? 4.75. So that means there's 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, 7.9, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4. Figure out which one is 7.2 based on that. Find the middle one in between these values. Okay? That should help you figure out the number line. All right, finish this for tomorrow.